I just finished reading Misery by Stephen King, and so I thought I'd come over here to my little horror corner of my library, which is about two-thirds Stephen King, and talk about it a little bit with you guys. I've said before, if you've been watching the channel, I haven't done a lot of Stephen King reviews. I have not really continued the Stephen King readathon, although I have been reading the books. But Misery is just kind of too interesting to not talk about. As soon as I finished it, or even as I was getting close to the end, I was like, I want to talk about this. This is exciting. So I've said before, there's a million YouTube videos of like Stephen King book reviews, and you can find a lot of other people talking about it and probably explaining things a lot better and having a lot more intelligent opinions. But I'm just excited about this book. I just wanted to talk about it because it kind of blew me away. So this is going to be kind of unfiltered. I just have a couple thoughts scribbled on a post-it note here. But the basic premise of the book is this famous author named Paul Sheldon. He crashes his car and he is rescued from his car wreck by this super fan of his, somebody who really loves his books and knows who he is. Unfortunately, she's also super crazy, and she takes him hostage, basically, and forces him to write a book because she didn't like the way the last book ended in the series that he was writing. And so she forces him to write another book in the series to fix it, kind of. And that's the basic premise. Like, he's trapped in her house in rural, isolated Colorado, and he has two broken legs. I think his pelvis is broken or damaged. I guess it's broken. Yeah, it's gripping. It's amazing. I guess this would be kind of a high concept novel. Stephen King really does this a lot, and it's one thing that I've enjoyed about his, and I've talked about it on the channel before, that he'll just get an idea, and it's such a basic premise. It's simple to summarize, but he really takes it to its logical conclusion, and he really explores it heavily. What if cars came alive and started killing people? Boom. What if there was a haunted hotel and a kid with psychic powers? Boom, The Shining. What if Dracula came back to small town America, Salem's Lot? And so it's what if a crazed fan could force an author to write the book that they wanted them to write, kind of thing. And yeah, it was great. I had a very basic idea of what this book was about. I've never seen the movie. It's a very famous movie, 1990, with James Caan and Kathy Bates. I've never seen it before, but I had a vague understanding that it was about like a guy being held hostage by one of his fans, an author being held hostage by his fans, by his fan. But I didn't know that she forces him to write a new book. One other thing I kind of knew about this book is that it explores the concept of pain a lot. Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, I've heard him mention that when he talks about Stephen King stuff, when he mentions Misery. And yeah, this book focuses a ton on the pain in his legs and different pains that he experiences at the hands of Annie Wilkes, which is the name of the lady that kidnaps him. And it was kind of funny. I mean, this doesn't apply to any of you watching, hopefully, but it just felt really apt to me because I've actually been suffering with two broken and infected teeth that have I have both of my molars down here, and I don't know if you can see, probably not. The swelling's gone down, but my jaw was all swollen up. I actually just got this tooth back here pulled on Monday, and I'm probably going to get a root canal on this one or possibly extract it next week. And so the whole time I've been reading this book, I've been having this pretty major pain. Nothing compared to what, I don't think I said his name, Paul Sheldon, the author. Nothing compared to what he's going through, but I don't know, it was just kind of fun reading it, and I guess sympathizing a little bit, at least, because I was dealing with some bad pain that I needed medication for. It was bad enough. But anyway, so he ends up getting kind of hooked on these pills that Annie gives him. She is a former nurse, and she has all these sample medications squirreled away in her house. And he gets super addicted to these pain meds that she's giving him. And so a lot of this book is also an exploration of addiction. I believe this was at a time when he was pretty heavily using cocaine. And so it explores that as well. And it's all kind of tied together. It's really well done. I like to do this, especially with King's books. I didn't think ahead. I don't know if I did this consciously, actually, but I didn't really think ahead. Like I said, I knew the basic premise, and I just started reading. And this book goes places that I just didn't think about. And if I had stopped and thought about it, I probably would have not been as shocked. But I was totally shocked at a few times. And I won't spoil what happens. I think probably you might kind of know because it's sort of entered the public consciousness in some ways. But like Annie, he's already injured, and Annie exploits that and hurts him multiple times throughout the book. And she does some crazy stuff to him to get him to comply. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know. And then I was really impressed with how it's this basic premise. He's just trapped in this house. It's like, where can this really go? But King so just wonderfully like ups the tension constantly. Is he going to escape? Is he even going to try to escape, seeing what Annie has like put in his way to prevent that? If someone comes to the house, is he going to try to yell and get their attention, or is he going to stay quiet because she might punish him? And we see a little bit of all of that. Kind of mild spoilers. I'm not trying to spoil anything major, but like we do see a little bit of all of that. There is a part, again, very vague spoilers. I won't get specific, where she leaves the house and he's able to break out of the room he's in. He's able to pick the lock, but he's in a wheelchair, so he's not able to get out of the house. But he kind of explores the house, and the first priority on his mind is to get more pain meds because he's hooked and his legs hurt. And the whole time, it's like, I don't know, 10 pages, 15 pages of him trying to find the pain meds. And I'm just screaming at the book, like, get to the phone! Like, call the authorities! Like, what do you do? And like I said, just upping that tension. And you're like, you don't know when Annie's gonna get home. Get to the phone, man! What are you doing? And it was just exciting and thrilling to read. And again, it's just such a basic thing. It's just a guy in a house. The whole book takes place in his house. Other than like, you know, maybe a chapter or two here and there. Almost the entire book takes place in one room in this house. And it's just riveting. It's so good. There was a part where it was last night. I was reading in bed. It was kind of late. My wife was on her phone. And I read this part that I can't, well, Paul Sheldon looks out the window and a police officer comes to the house. And something happens. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I scared the heck out of my wife. She jumped. She was like, oh my gosh, my heart is beating. So I guess I really startled her with my reaction. I like gasped and it scared her. So this is just an exciting, it's like parts of it feel like a thriller. I wouldn't really call it a thriller overall because it doesn't have that pacing. But parts of it are definitely thrilling. It's exciting. It's an exciting book to read. And yeah, it's cool. There's this neat concept of a novel within a novel. So, like I said, she's forcing him to write a new book, and so we get chapters of that book, and we don't get the entire book, obviously, but like we get kind of the beginning and some of the middle and some of the end. So you kind of get the whole story of this novel within the novel, and it's kind of neat. It's a romance novel set in like Victorian England, and so that's kind of fun and weird, like in the middle of this book, and what's extra interesting that just adds layers and texture to the reading is Annie gets him this typewriter that's old and used, and the N key doesn't work. And so when you're reading the manuscript in the middle of this book, there's it's like typewriter script, but all the N's are handwritten in there. I don't know if this is gonna focus. Whatever. All the N's are handwritten. And so you're reading through here, and occasionally there's some N's missing that are not, that like he forgot or he missed. And so I don't know, like I said, it just adds a more texture to the book and adds a different dimension. And it's just kind of a neat thing to include. Another thing that kind of occurred to me about maybe 2/3 of the way through this book that I really just enjoyed, it's a funny kind of aspect, is I think Stephen King is sort of using this book as a vehicle to explain the writing process, writing as an art form, to his fans, to like the normies that don't know anything about writing. I don't pretend to like want to be a writer or anything like that, but I enjoy learning about the process of writing, and I enjoy listening to interviews with authors, and I listen to like podcasts and stuff talking about the concept of being an author and being a writer and what it takes and what it means and how it's done. And Annie, this character, she's one of these people, she just consumes the stories. At the beginning, it talks about like, oh yeah, she has no interest in seeing how it's done. She just wants to consume the product. And you almost get a sense that Stephen King is like writing this to his fans that are like that in order to kind of get them off his back. Because I can only imagine, sometimes you hear authors talk about like, oh, the dumb questions that fans ask them or the silly things that fans say to them sometimes. And a lot of like Annie's ideas about how the story is made, this character Paul Sheldon like addresses those and lets her know like that's not how it works. I can't just tell you the ending. I'm not a storyteller. I'm a story writer. There's a scene where she's like, just tell me the ending. Just tell it. And he's like, I'm a bad storyteller. She's like, no, you're a great storyteller. And he says, no, I'm a pretty good story writer, but I'm not a good storyteller. And besides, I don't even really know the ending yet. I have to actually write it to get there to find out the ending. And there's a few of those things kind of scattered throughout. The type of paper that he needs to use, because she buys him like this different type of paper that's more expensive, yet crappy paper that he doesn't like, and just things like that. And I find that kind of fascinating. And I just wonder if Stephen King was like sick of people telling him like, hey, tell me the ending, or how does this work, or how does that work. And like I can just picture him kind of using this book as a way to tell people the answers to these common questions, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but I enjoyed that aspect of this book. I guess the last thing I want to talk about is just the ending. It has a good, solid ending, I think. I can see how some people might not like this ending, to be honest, but it really kept me guessing up until the very end. I mean, 5 pages from the end, I'm like, wait, is he going to get out of here? Is she going to get him? Are they both going to die? Are they both going to live? Is one or the other? Like, you don't know until the very end. And it was exciting. And like I said, I couldn't put it down. It was really exciting. And I really thought it was an interesting ending. He does this thing, which I can't talk about because it's literally in the last couple of pages. He does this really interesting thing that kind of tricks you into thinking something, and then it's revealed that it's something else. And I just thought it was brilliant. I really liked it. I really liked it a lot. I've probably said that a dozen times in this video. But I liked this book. It was really good. It was really fun. It was really exciting. I told my wife about it as I was reading it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing just happened. And she was like, that's terrible. She said I was like making her sick to her stomach, talking about the pain that Paul Sheldon is going through. So if you're squeamish about broken bones and injuries and kind of torture, then maybe you shouldn't read this book. But man, it was, I don't know. I don't know why. I'm just sick and twisted, I guess, but it was fun. It was a cool story. Oh, actually, the very last thing I do want to talk about, I should talk about, when I was doing the Stephen King readathon with Jordan, we would always talk about the connections to the other books, and this one does have some neat connections. It takes place in Sidewinder, Colorado, which is the town closest to the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. And then later in the book, the hotel is specifically mentioned. Annie says something about she met a guy who was in town to go take pictures of the ruins of the old Overlook Hotel, which was burned down by the caretaker who was crazy. So she kind of mentions Jack Torrance from The Shining without actually naming him. She just says the caretaker who was a crazy guy, and he burned down the hotel. Which, if you've read The Shining, you know he didn't exactly burn it down. But anyway. Another kind of pseudo connection is that when Paul Sheldon was 12 years old, his mother was friends with a lady named Mrs. Casbrack who lived across the street. And specifically in this memory, his mom and Mrs. Casbrack go to Boston together for the day. So he's living on the East Coast, nearish Boston, I guess. And Mrs. Casbrack, well, in the book It, Eddie Casbrack is one of the main characters in It. But it just says Mrs. Casbrack. So it's kind of speculated, is that Eddie's mom? Is that maybe one of his aunts? Because I think he does have a couple aunts that are mentioned. And I saw some speculation online that like this is probably not when the Casbracks lived in Derry. It might have been after they moved away from Derry. We don't really know, but we do see that name, Casbrack, showing up in both. So I choose to see that as a connection. I just put in my notes probably Eddie's mom or possibly one of his aunts. And so yeah, those are the only 2 connections that I saw here just to The Shining and It. But it is part of the multiverse, so that's pretty neat. I like that kind of stuff. So that's my review of Misery. I hope this made some sense to you. If you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff, just let me know and I can do more reviews. You know, we used to do a lot of reviews for Stephen King here on the channel with Jordan, and I've been reading the books, but I haven't really been doing reviews on them. And so if you want to see more of these, let me know in the comments, and I'll definitely consider doing that. Otherwise, have a good one. See ya.